I spent too much time in Europe this fall and got spoiled and decided to bring something back to North America. So.
Oh, I love it.
What are you drinking there?
I have a cafe latte.
You see that? Okay, sorry. I'll get out of that. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and get this stuff going here. So Ashley and I are here to discuss how to grow revenue on top of partnerships. This can be related to agency partnerships, but mainly tech to agency partnerships. Ashley, I'll let you do your own intro in a second, but we've been working together for a long time now, and we both love partnerships. And you are a former VP of partnerships at Hawk Media for a while. You did partnerships in the VC world as well, but do your own introduction for the few people listening who probably don't know you.
No worries. My background is in marketing. I'm primarily a digital marketer. My technical specialty is paid social media acquisition, primarily in B2B SaaS, as well as in e-commerce. I am the former CMO of a venture-backed startup up in the Bay Area, and have done quite a bit of things on that side of the ecosystem. But primarily for the past several years, I've been on the agency side of the ecosystem. So I was the first ever head of partnerships at Wpromote. For anyone who's not familiar, Wpromote is a digital full-service e-commerce agency. The next agency I was a part of was Hawk Media, where I was the SVP of partnerships for some time and elevated partnerships to the executive team there and the executive function. And then today I'm at Levitate Foundry as the SVP of revenue, which includes overseeing partnerships as well as sales and marketing. So really baking partnerships into more of the business model and cross-disciplinary across more functions.
Love it. Couldn't have picked a better co-host. So we have 30 minutes on LinkedIn. It was scheduled for an hour, but it's not going to be an hour. We'll get it all done in 30 minutes and let everyone get back to their post Cyber Monday lives. So I do have a presentation. This is our first time doing a LinkedIn live, so bear with me. Okay, that layout's good. I like that. Okay, so strategies to grow revenue on top of partnerships. I'll just kind of preface this with oftentimes, and Ashley is going to give us her opinions on my comments after I go through it, but oftentimes we enter into partnerships without an idea of what it is we are really trying to do. We like a product, or we like a person, or we like a company, and we start the relationship through some email threads. Maybe we met at an event, and we have good intentions. We all do. We want to do stuff together, but then things fizzle out. Things can go off the rails. Things can get forgotten. We all have daily lives and clients that we need to service, and things kind of fall off. So we put this presentation together about a year ago, and it's been iterated on a number of times since. And the whole purpose is to say, okay, well, how do you enter the partnership with actionable, go here, do stuff, let's get things done mentality and get on the same page, and then execute to the point of revenue, ROI. That's what we want. We're putting in time. Us as solution partners, we may not be buying the software, but our time is money, and we have to bring in our team members and we have to pay them. Their time is money. So we have to make sure we get ROI from the partnerships. This is a little bit more about Ashley. You can follow her on Twitter. Are you active on Twitter, Ashley?
Not since the Elon takeover.
Not since the Elon. You're anti-Twitter now.
And I'm someone who, my career really started on Twitter. I used to work in politics. I managed Twitter and all social for the largest political party in Canada and the former prime minister. I personally used to have over 10 Twitter accounts. I'm extremely pro free speech, but there's still several things I don't agree with. So there's a lot of other excellent platforms, but yeah, you can find me all over the internet. My handle on anything that has a handle is just at Ashley Scorpio.
I love it. I love it. If you don't know me, I am the founder of Partner Hub and partnerprograms.io. It's kind of an umbrella sort of org at this point. I mean, we have two communities, one for solutions partners, agencies, where they learn everything from internal operations to obviously partnership stuff, and learning how to build new services on top of technology. And Partner Hub is where everybody comes to find and grow on top of new partnerships and current partnerships. Okay, let's get into it. So what types of partnerships are we going to discuss today? We are talking mainly about the first two categories of of implementation and referral partnerships. If we're dealing with tech, we are either going to implement that technology or we're going to refer that technology to our clients. And then there's a third bucket that is the unsung hero of partnerships that you can do with just about any company that is talking to the same audience as you. And that doesn't mean you have to refer directly to that company. It doesn't mean you have to implement their product. You can just co-market and co-sell together. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Ashley, one thing I did want to mention, if you can try this, see if you can pull up the live feed on LinkedIn if there are any comments, if anyone has any questions. I don't see it, and I feel like if I tried to watch it on LinkedIn in another tab, the comments, I would get sidetracked. So if you can pull it up and just maybe there's a mute the live stream so it doesn't echo, try that. See if it works. If it starts echoing or anything, we'll stop that. Again, we're tech people, but this is my first live stream. Okay, I don't want to waste any more time. Okay, so first and foremost, Ashley, what would you say qualifies your organization? You entered a new organization recently, you have partners, but qualifying yourselves for new partnerships, what would you say are the important factors? You can cheat and read off this list, but.
No, I actually think there's a lot of different things. I think, and we've talked about this a lot when it comes to partner enablement, is you kind of have to get your own house in order first before you can think about successfully administering or managing a partnership externally. And honestly, some of the biggest roadblocks, if you don't solve them early on or on an ongoing basis to a successful partnership, are often internal roadblocks. Because when you find like-minded people in other organizations and third parties, there's often that interest and willingness to partner. And there is that perhaps external buy-in from the partner, but then sometimes you run into walls and roadblocks internally for actually executing on the things that you thought might be easy to execute on, or you thought would be no problem, or you thought other departments would be happy to do. But quite frankly, one of the things that you often run into is that, like Alex said, just like third-party people and partners have their own jobs and lives, internally, your colleagues in different teams and departments have their own role and responsibility that probably doesn't touch partnerships. So first and foremost, ensure you have internal buy-in, not only from your executive team, but from your peers and colleagues across different departments that are going to be needed to help implement some of these partnerships. What do I mean? If we're talking today primarily about, let's say, referral partnerships or implementation partnerships, or if we're talking about co-marketing partnerships, think about all the dependencies there. If it is an implementation partnership, you probably have to work internally with your service team colleagues on the agency side to actually come up with packages and SKUs and deliverables of what implementation or a management package would look like for that technology partner. Right. And there might even be a sales operation piece of that where you have to work with them on pricing for the package. So that would be sort of the sorts of things you have to think about internally when you're coming up with those management and implementation partnerships. You might need to get colleagues from your service team on the agency and from the enablement team on the technology partner. So not even just the P2P partner manager to partner manager, but you'll need to get all these other internal stakeholders talking sometimes to make these things happen. And then similarly, if you're doing referrals, if you work on the partner team on an agency side of the equation, you probably don't talk to clients every day. So you need to make friends with your colleagues on the service team who are actually account managers and experts, who are the ones actually managing relationships with your clients and building that rapport, or your colleagues on the sales side who have relationships with those clients too, or with prospects that also might be great fits for your partners. That's one of the ways you will feed those referral relationships, by building internal relationships with your colleagues who have the rapport with those clients and prospects to refer them out to partners. And then Finally, if we're talking about co-marketing partnerships or co-selling, again, those internal dependencies on your marketing team, if you don't have a dedicated partner marketer or partner marketing team, or even co-selling, is there a process for that with the sales team? Is there a way to co-sell, co-pitch, go to market together? So I honestly think the way to start and qualify whether or not you can have a successful partnership or build a successful partner program is to determine what dependencies you have internally, what resources you have internally, and what buy-in you have internally. It all starts, it seems counterintuitive because partnerships is often forward, external facing, but you sort of have to look inward first and make sure, like I said, you have your own house in order, and then you go to market for partners with all those things in place.
I love it. That's why you're here. So slide is pretty simple, but that's the full explanation from someone who's ran partnerships for a while. Thank you, Ashley. That was killer. You mentioned a couple things that are important in there. These are, I'd say, the bare minimum. You just got to make sure operations, sales, and expertise are all there. You can't be a good partner if you can't bring in new business in some way, shape, or form. So you either have to have an audience, you have to have clients on repeatable retainers, helps a lot, that you can bake partners into. So we'll talk a little bit about that. All right. So now we get into a little bit of the weeds, but I mentioned on slide 4, the 3 types of partnerships. So what you want to do when you're talking about partnerships is enter with some level of intent. You may not be sure what you're going to do with that partner when you first meet them, but at some level, you want to decide if you are going down the implementation partner track, right? This lower track, or if you're just going to be referral partners. And there's a lot of signals that can happen in the first couple of calls, and also reviewing the product with your team, documentation, support, all that stuff that puts you onto that implementation partner track. But most of the revenue from partnerships comes from, I'm going to implement a service, and you are the product that I'm going to implement on top of, and you're going to support me in both client support, but also sales and marketing support, so I can bring in new business on top of that. But I'll talk about some ways that you can ensure that those partners are bringing you that business in this presentation. Feel free to stop me if you want to talk about any of these, but we'll go right into the next one if you don't have anything about that, Ashley. But this is what I want to talk about. So productizing services. I think, Ashley, you have some tremendous experience here, and what it really means to say, okay, guys, we're a custom shop, and I have partners that I work with in different ways, to saying, you know what, we are a blank shop, and we have specific packages that you can purchase from us that are on top of these products. But talk about what you think about productized services and how it lends itself to partnership, and then I'll talk specifically about these screenshots. Ashley, you there?
Yes.
Yeah, you're on mute. There you go.
So a couple things. When you're thinking about productized services, so this is something I've set up on the agency side, in particular for tech partners that don't, because we all know some SaaS companies actually offer managed services as well. So this is the sort of thing too, where you're going to want to determine and ensure that you're not stepping on anyone's toes. Because again, you might not necessarily think internally first as a partner-oriented person. So if you're going to go to market, this is typically the best fit when your company doesn't offer any managed services, if you're on the tech side. And then you're typically going to your agency partners to come up with things that work in the sense of implementation and separately ongoing management, because that's typically most agencies' bread and butter is monthly recurring revenue. I have done this, for example, when I was at Hawk, we became Clyde's first implementation and management partner on the agency side. And again, that was a situation where we had all kind of full house on either side, all those different key stakeholders internally on both sides that I mentioned, to determine what deliverables should be, what pricing should look like, what education we would need. And again, you know how we were talking about what you have to do to sort of make these strategies successful. When it comes to productized services, oftentimes there is a certification or there's an education component or learning modules. So lots of times before an agency is even able to either sell or implement on some of these platforms, and HubSpot's a great example, there's typically an online LMS system or learning academy or certification academy. And oftentimes there's also a minimum. For example, in order to be a Google agency partner, you have to have a minimum of 10 certified media buyers, for example. So oftentimes there's all these thresholds and things you want to think about. And pricing is also good. As the SaaS partner, it's often good to give pricing guidelines to your agency partner, so they're not over or under charging for what you think the appropriate ballpark should be.
I love it. Awesome, Ashley. And the strategy here is specific to tech partners, but you could have referral white label partners underneath these services, other agencies that help support these services. That's up to you. But the main strategy is if I'm your partner and I know that you are an expert in my solution, and maybe my customer success team has access to a directory of expert partners that are approved to share referrals. Maybe the sales team does as well, but you can't rely on that so much. You have to give your partners specific landing pages and very easy referral avenues to your product pages. That goes to say, if I just went to a CS rep at my tech partner team and said, hey, I haven't seen a referral from you guys in a while. Here's a reminder of what I do. That's good. But what's better is I offer a specific $1,600 a month service that embeds and implements and customizes your product to everybody who buys it. That's an easy referral for a sales or a CS team at that tech company to say, you know what, we have an agency that specializes in this and it's $1,600 and you can go and buy that right now. And that's an easy referral. So it just gives them a very easy touch point for their CS or sales calls when they have a client in need of exactly that you sell, instead of sending them to a custom page that doesn't really talk about how much or what it is they're going to do, the agency is going to do. So productize at least the starter services, some that are easily packageable.
And just quickly, that sort of arrangement really is a win-win for both parties. So oftentimes it actually helps the SaaS company, especially if it's enterprise SaaS and it's a longer sales cycle, close and win more deals. Because oftentimes, especially if there are no managed services on the SaaS side, which is the most common model for SaaS, there might be prospects that are great fits otherwise and have budget and timeline and the pain points that you can solve for, but quite frankly, don't have the technical capabilities in-house to actually implement your tool or platform and actually get the most out of it. So oftentimes by having these certified agency implementation or management partners, it actually helps you win more business. And inversely, the way it becomes a win on the agency side is, like you were saying, Alex, it's naturally creates referrals that are holistic and make sense. And sometimes you end up having full pipelines built off of one sort of partner implementation or partner management SKU or package.
Love it. I love it. And shout out to Six and Flow in the UK. That's that first HubSpot CRM implementation. And I believe this is Penguin Strategies up here on the right, another HubSpot agency. HubSpot agencies do the productization of services really well. And then Flow Candy in the bottom right here is Klaviyo and other partners, but this is, I believe, services on top of Klaviyo. Very unique and creative ways that they package that up. Makes it super easier for your partners to refer you business. Okay, now we're talking partnerships. We all want to refer business back and forth and be that referral partner and receive those referrals. That's what we all want from partnerships, but we have to start somewhere, right? I can't just go to Ashley and say, send me business. We have to get to know each other. We have to do stuff together. So we always just say the simple phrase of just do stuff with your partners. You can win just by being associated with some of these top experts and top brands. So get to know them in some way, shape, or form. Start with a collaboration. Create a course together. Run a webinar together. Case in point, micro podcast series. Do stuff together that'll get both of your teams associated. And the key word there is co-marketing. Ashley, anything on co-marketing? And then we got to breeze through the next.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think you should only do as many co-marketing initiatives that as you can execute on well. So don't do and say yes to everything and everyone for the sake of just doing. If you don't have the appropriate resources internally, obviously things are split between you and the partner. So if together the two of you don't have the appropriate resources to pull off something well, maybe don't do it yet, or maybe pull in a third partner. So that's the only thing I would say is, in order to, set things off on the right foot. For example, if you agree to co-host an event with a partner, let's say IRL, a dinner or something, that's typically beyond just sponsorship dollars and helping coordinate or book the venue, right? Typically, you're also responsible for people in chairs, or bums in seats, as some people would say. And so, if you don't think you can deliver on that, then that might be not the right initiative or not the right time for that initiative. All I'm saying is, whatever you do with partners, you should definitely give your best effort to ensure the best possible outcomes. And if there's any snags along the way, I honestly think open, honest communication is much more important than saving face, if you will. And so I think just be honest with your partners, be honest with yourself. Don't bite off more than you can chew. And if you have all your ducks in order, have fun with it. Go for it. Run with it.
Love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm looking for an example for this next slide here. So specific to co-marketing, I think co-marketing can fall flat. Like you mentioned, you don't put enough into it. It's not promoted enough in whatever way. You do get some level of immediate value from just being into content on top blogs, like we mentioned, these backlink opportunities. Now, what's more than that is doing something that's going to be a consistent flow of not only leads for both parties, but an avenue, again, for customer success and sales to refer to you. So referring a troubled user to a sales page is not always something that a customer success or a salesperson are going to be comfortable with. But referring them to a course on how to implement and run marketing campaigns, and maybe even doing full funnel operations with your product at the center, is something that a customer success or a salesperson would be happy to do, or should be happy to do. Creating a course with a partner is where I have the expertise. I'm a marketing agency, and I know how to drive traffic and convert traffic on top of a Shopify store, right? Now, the user, the store owner, may also know marketing, but they don't know how to connect the dots. They don't know which tools to implement to do what. You do, or at least you have your own biases. You do it your way, but you're the expert, right? The customer success and the salesperson at that technology, call it Shopify, aren't experts in marketing. They don't know how to advise or instruct them on their marketing trouble, so they refer out. So if you create a course that, let's just say it has 8 classes, and each one of those classes focuses on an aspect of the funnel, you can go out to the tech partners that you want to include in the course and say, hey, I'm thinking about including you in this course. What can you do for me if I feature you as the recommendation for this aspect of the funnel in this class? And they'll say whatever they say, but you can suggest, would you put the course, a link to the course, in your onboarding documentation? I'm willing to give your referrals complete access to the course for free. Can you put it in a newsletter announcement? Can you post it on social? What can you do for me? And go to each one of the technologies that you're thinking of putting into the course. And maybe you have a backup in case someone's willing to bring something more than that. There could be sponsorship dollars. There could be multiple ways, but creating a course is a really easy way for anyone to refer business to you. Anything on creating a course, and then we'll move on to number 5.
Yeah, this is actually something I've done previously and something I'm in the process of doing again right now with another new partner. And so we had our initial call on this yesterday. One of the things I would tell you when it comes to creating a course, it's going to take a lot more than one call, right? So your first call might be ensuring there's alignment in the audience. And then you're probably going to have several more calls, either to actually record the materials together or to come up with an outline. One of the things that's important to start is to align not only on audience outreach and promotion of the materials, because you're going to be putting a lot of legwork in to create this course, and where it's going to live and who's going to host it, for example, but also what topics do we actually want to talk about? And like, what subtopics do we want to talk about? And then more importantly, who is most qualified? Who is the expert on either side to speak to each of those specific topics? Again, you want to put your best face and your best foot forward. So who would be the most valuable person that you would want to sit down and listen to speak on that topic that, of course, you hopefully have access to within your own or partner organization? So those are just all things to think about when you're thinking about a course. The other thing I would say is timing. Think is if whether or not it's an evergreen course or if it's specific to seasonality or something that's going on a certain time of year or a one-time thing. So you also want to think about when you are launching the course, when you're publishing it, when you're promoting it, whether or not there's any sort of cohort component to it. So for example, if it's not an evergreen thing that just lives on site and is always there and people can sort of self-enroll in, if there's any sort of cohorts that you create, or if you match make people to one another who are doing the certifications together, or if there's any study component or things like that, obviously in its most basic form, it's typically just self-enroll, sign up, log in, and kind of self-guided study is the most common.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And I'm just showing one of our friends, Electric Eye, but they have this brand, Honest Commerce, which is podcasts and courses. This is a perfect example. It's a Shopify and Klaviyo course, really in depth, how to do the setup and implementation and some full funnel aspects. So there's a good example. So create a course, reach out to a few partners to help you with that course, bring them into it, bring them in more if they're willing to do more, that kind of stuff. Okay, so number 5, when you have events with partners, one of the suggestions that we always say is, instead of driving your traffic to the partners' landing pages, always create your own event pages. This helps to just ensure that you are still the primary beneficiary of that event, that co-marketing, that thing that you're doing with your partner. Instead of just being the expert involved, go one step further and say, yeah, I'll drive RSVPs, but I'm going to create my own event pages and own that as well. And then your partner can drive to their event page as long as the webinar link is the same. Okay, so number 6, lean on your partners to create the assets. You should not be creating the assets for campaigns that sell your partner technology. This is specific. I guess this could go agency to agency as well, but asset creation, Ashley, I think the good example is if I came to you and we wanted to ramp you up in a go-to-market as a partner of ours, and we agreed on a marketing budget, both of us, and promotions, et cetera. At what point would you ask your partner to bring what assets to the table, or anything come to mind from past experiences?
Yeah, typically it's great to have a number of different assets for this sort of enablement and marketing and sales enablement. And to your point, it's often great if you have a template that you can share separately with many different partners that they can actually co-brand, especially if you're doing a mutual campaign around it or promotion around it. It's great for it to be co-branded. So it's nice to keep that in mind when you design or have your team design the template, that there will be space for both your company's logo and the partner logo. A couple things that are usually helpful is usually a one-sheeter, typically a price sheet as well. Sometimes it's a two-sheeter if things are a little bit more detailed or in depth. Sometimes there's a small or short about us or about the service deck if it's about the services. If it's about that sort of implementation or management service that we're talking about, maybe it's leads with what is the platform of technology and then what is the accompanying or complementary service and why you might need it, and how the two of them together are sort of like the winning solution as a package deal, if you will. So those are some of the things I've seen. The other things I've seen too is sort of a battle card format with the tech partner and the agency partner on it. Or, for example, if there's a key competitor that the tech partner is usually up against or would be up against in the specific types or size of deals that you're looking at going to market together on, there might be the technology partner, the agency partner, and why they're awesome together, and then, this top competitor and why perhaps that doesn't stack up.
Killer. Shout out to Smith, one of our users and friends that we've referred to. They've got a Notion, what is it called? Not a base, that's Airtable. They've got a Notion folder room, I don't know, whatever it's called, that's open to all their partners. And inside there are just layers upon layers of assets that your partners can use to create ads, to train their team, to run campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. All right, those were kind of the boring ones, admittedly, but I think we get into a little bit more actionable stuff here to close it out. Number 7, mapping accounts. This can be done manually. This can be done in tools like Reveal or Crossbeam. And the idea here is, okay, well, we're about to go to market together. We've decided that we want to partner in some way. And let's just say a good example is you have a big co-marketing campaign going out in 3 months. And there's prep that needs to get done. There's promotions. Let's say there's an event included. It's with you and a few partners. What I always suggest, and we always suggest, is prior to that going live, you want to do 2 things. You want to have a source of attribution for the success of the campaign. One of those is, of course, attendees and conversions from the campaign. But another one of those is, well, how many of your contacts, your leads, your pipeline came into my pipeline? That is a very good indication of mutual success from this event. And the way you find that out and the way you judge that is through mapping accounts. So if Ashley and I are about to do an event together in 3 months, I say, Ashley, you know what, let's find a source of attribution for this. And then maybe we want to take action on those overlapping accounts. If there are overlapping accounts, let's map accounts. And then we find, okay, well, we have 50 shared accounts. 50 people are in my CRM that are in her CRM. And they're at various stages. It doesn't really matter what stages they're at. Then what we can do immediately after that is say, okay, well, let's dig into those accounts and see where they're at and see if we can do anything to push those specific accounts to this event that we're having. Sure, let's do a newsletter. Let's do an account-based targeting to get those specific 50 accounts to this event. Because if they know one of us and they trust one of us, chances are they're going to trust the referral, or at least have a better chance of converting. But at the very least, we had 50. Then the event goes live and it runs and the marketing campaign fizzles out. You look back at the overlap and you see that you have 100 overlapping accounts. So you have new people from Ashley CRM that have entered yours. That means that event, for whatever attendees that showed up, it was successful. That campaign was successful. And then you want to do it again with Ashley because it was successful. And the opposite of that could happen where you don't have any shared accounts. You run the event and you still don't have any shared accounts. Then you stop the partnership. You go your separate ways. Ashley, anything on account mapping? And I'll show just a couple of recommendations here.
So one of the ways that we've done and leveraged this for co-selling is when we've specifically seen a good amount of overlaps in mutual prospects, we've then created a email drip campaign that was specifically like outbound sales oriented, but with all the kind of information that we talked about that was co-branded and sort of why this is a winning partnership together and why you might want to work with both of these partners. And then we've literally sought to book calls and get them on the phone and do discovery and co-sell with the partner. So any of those that actually booked and came through, we took together, both partners, the agency partner and the tech partner, and then sort of gone from there and tried to bring them over the line. So we created a whole drip campaign that basically encompassed all that information as to why they should work with both of us.
I love it. I was just showing, this is Reveal. It's a free platform you can use to map accounts. You may need to connect CRMs. Sometimes you can upload a CSV and map accounts. If you're not sure how to co-sell in Partner Hub, there is a co-selling project that goes through all of the steps. This is organization of who I'm co-selling with, what stage I'm at with which person. When you deploy this project, it will send you a course link on how to co-sell with partners. It's all there for you. Moving on. Okay. Number 8, go to market with every new partner. So we mentioned that obviously you need to have intention. You need to want ROI from the partnership, and then you need to have a plan of attack. We call this going to market. And in Partner Hub again. I'm trying not to plug Partner Hub too much, but we have this great project from Sharice Siegel. Shout out to her. She's at Simon Data, killer partnership manager. This is how she goes to market with her new partners. All of the steps and stages are here. And the idea is this. It's not enough to just say, hey, let's do an event together and let's figure out if that was successful. We need to be very meticulous about what are we doing at which stages of the partnership. And when we do trust each other, we need to make it loud. We need to go out there on social. We need to go to our newsletters. We need to go to our marketing team, enrich data sets, and really push the information out that this is our new partner. And this is specifically what it is that we are great for. The two of us, technology and agency, or agency and agency, are great for these use cases. Here's how to get involved. Landing pages on both of our sites, profiles in both of our directories, footer badges, newsletter publications, a whole big thing. And then of course, mapping accounts and making sure you have some level of attribution for the success of the partnership. And then that overarching co-marketing endeavors going on at this very same time, just a big go-to-market. What do you think, Ashley?
Definitely. And sometimes the partner announcement is as simple as a LinkedIn post. And other times it's a bigger partnership that warrants a press release, right? So don't think that each one of these little steps and things here has to be done a specific way, right? Think about what's appropriate for that partnership or that type of partner or that tier of partner, right? If you have a bigger program that you've tiered out and sort of what that's going to entail or sort of what that has earned based on activity so far or the prospect of the partnership because it's net new. So those are just things to think about. The part here of creating and publishing a case study, that I think is key to actually highlight the wins. And similarly, when we did that co-selling campaign that I mentioned, that's what we did is we created mutual case studies and we linked out in each of those different messages and emails that we sent because that was really compelling, right? So I think that's extremely important. And that's oftentimes one of the ways to really go to market with a new partner is to get, if you don't already have mutual clients and customers, and create success stories. And then that ultimately helps sort of propel the partnership forward.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And you'll see links if you have the link to this PDF or it's PDF on my website. You'll see links. This is an article on explanations of all these steps. So you can go to that. If you need them, by the way, and you didn't get the link to the deck, just DM me on LinkedIn or Slack and I'll send this off to you. Okay. This is one of my favorite ones. LinkedIn has this really awesome tool called Sales Navigator that if any of us are at a decent sized company, we probably have a Sales Navigator account. You can set alerts when one of your partners' companies hires for certain roles. And partnerships is a two-way street. This is what many of us forget. If a partner came to us, they wanted to partner with us, you may just sit kind of in the passenger seat of the partnership and let them push you in different directions and tell you what to do. And then you may not hear from them for a month or 6 months and you're not sure what's going on. If you really want revenue from your partners, you have to be proactive. So set an alert that says when a new CS or salesperson joined this company, send me an alert. And then what you do from there is you enter their connections, you enter their direct messages, maybe in mail, welcome them to the company, explain who you are. I'm your partner. I do this for your company. And here's my one-sheeter that explains my customer persona and my services. And maybe here's a link to a case study that I actually did with your company. And now they know that you're this type of partner for the company, and the chances that they'll mention you on sales and CS calls goes way up. And the chances that they'll invite you to things that you should be invited to goes way up. And it's just a good practice. And then you can even set an alert in your calendar to reach back out in 3 months once they've onboarded and gotten up to speed and can be a better referral source. But be proactive, make sure they know who you are. Ashley?
A good partner should be a champion or a cheerleader for their partners, right? So celebrate their wins, celebrate them publicly, pump them up whenever you can, mention them whenever you can, whether that's in one-to-one conversations with prospects and clients, or whether that's like commenting and sharing and adding engagement on their LinkedIn posts, right? It's the simple little things that really truly add up. And you have no idea what someone's going to appreciate or what could make their day or what could also get them the reach that they need to reach, hopefully, their target audience.
I'm on mute. Yes. Yes, exactly.
It makes me think about P2P partnerships. So when you think about partners, you often think about referrals and just introducing them to prospects and clients. I think it's also great to introduce partners to each other. So if you know you have two great partners that should probably also speak to each other separate from anything they're doing with you, obviously get their buy-in and their approval first before making an introduction like that. But oftentimes a lot of partners will really appreciate that, especially if they're just starting out and they're looking to scale their program. That can be invaluable to them.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, the takeaway there is just make sure that you are proactive about the partnership. You're not sitting on the sidelines. You're not in the passenger seat. You're helping your partner with ideas. You're reminding them you exist, and you're continually coming to them with more things that you should be doing together. Okay. Number 10, creating a memorandum with your partner. This boils everything down to, okay, brass tacks, an agreement, exactly what we've promised each other. This isn't your partnership agreement. This isn't, we have a referral fee agreement. This is specifically, I want to do this with Ashley. Here are the points of contact that I'm going to be communicating with. Here are the URLs that we've promised to add links to each other. Here are the plans for Q1 of 2023. Here are the exact logos that you're going to go after and target together. Here's everything we need to know about our partnership, because every partnership should be intentional and every company is different. You have a different plan of attack. You've got different resource links. You've got different points of contact. You can't just have everything in one boilerplate contract. So create an intentional memorandum. Meet with your partners once a year at the very least. I'd say once a quarter for your closer partners. Meet with them and say, okay, well, this is what we talked about. Here's the memorandum. I even go as far as to ask them to have their partners sign it and say, yeah, this is what you promised us. And this is what we promised you. Did either of us come to the table with our end of the bargain? Where did we fall short? Did we get those logos that we wanted to target? Where are they at in the pipeline? And review everything. Update the memorandum and put it back in the folder and schedule your next memorandum review in a quarter or 6 months, et cetera. Thoughts on that?
Yes. So I like to do this actually quarterly personally. Again, that might be too frequent for some individuals and organizations. I also think that, when you set out the partnership from the very beginning, and this was covered in one of the previous slides about creating and setting the KPIs, that's great to do as a mutual activity, as to set the KPIs together. But in one of the very first partner calls during partner discovery, I like to ask very specifically, like, what does a successful partnership look like to you? How does your organization measure a successful partnership? And I think that's really important to understand, because believe it or not, that can vary vastly. It often depends on what the type of organization is, what the size of organization is, and what their broader business goals are. Again, partner goals should match and map into broader business goals, just like sales and marketing goals do. And then the other thing I would say too is it's good to have this memorandum. It's good to have these general KPIs and overarching goals. And then it's good to drill them down into actionable, exact, specific goals or wins you're looking for in that quarter or that month. Like you said, it literally might be a short list of logos if it's a co-selling partnership or initiative that you're primarily going after. But that's the one thing to think about is like, oh, referrals, great. What is the number of referrals we're targeting for each other, each quarter, each month, et cetera? How are we going to keep each other accountable? How are we going to get or ask for referrals if we don't see a natural sort of flow coming in, right? And so that it's not jarring or shocking to the partner that suddenly you're like, hey, I haven't seen any referrals from you this month. It should be expected because it's something you spoke about before and kind of set this upfront partner contract about.
I love it. Yeah. And it's important to understand. I mean, your partners are going to forget about you. That happens. You're going to forget about your partners. The memorandum keeps everyone on the same page to say, this is who we're targeting with what ammunition and assets and who's bringing what to the table, especially if there's market development funds involved and people bringing finances to the table. You may be matching that ad spend, et cetera. So this does turn into very much an agreement of like, hey, we agreed to this together. And then down here at the bottom, this is a template. I'll get this to everyone if you need it. Again, just DM me, but it's on the presentation. At the bottom, our friends at Electric Eye, also Chase, shout out to Chase Clymer over there. He's got all these great 1-page, 2-page assets that help his partners know how to refer them business and what they do and all those really cool things. So those are actual live links to templates. And then if you are a Partner Hub user, there's a memorandum feature that allows you to create these memorandums and actually house the promises that you've made to each other that your team can see. So you know what target logos you've got, shared links that you have, points of contact, document everything your partners promise you, and then hold them accountable to that. And of course, you have to bring stuff to the table too. So don't expect it to be a one-way street. That's the memorandum. I think that is one of the best things you can do to grow revenue with partnerships is set those expectations, hold your partners accountable, and execute on the things that you agree to. Final thoughts, Ashley, we did go over. I thought it would take 30 minutes, but it took about 40 minutes, which is fine. Any final thoughts on what people should be doing with their partners to grow revenue?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of revenue comes from referrals. So having a plan for that, because like I said, there might not already be a system in place internally. It might be a situation where you need to work to implement referral quotas internally for referrals to your partners. It might be about creating a system of what to listen for or look for that your colleagues should be keep on their radar, and then how and what is the process to get those over to partners. So it might be a lot of internal education and enablement. Oftentimes, it's really important to ensure that your entire organization knows who your partners are, what they do, and when they should bring them into the conversation and how. So those are often the ways to ensure referrals can flow from your organization outwardly. And then similarly, you should also have a process in place. What do we do when we get a referral from a partner? Who does that go to internally? How is it handled? How is it handled differently from any other referral or lead from any other lead source? Right. So it's all about the process. So creating a process, keeping yourselves organized, and also ensuring you're along those lines. One of the things you should definitely do is attribution for your channel. So you should ensure as part of your organization and process that you're tagging those referrals specifically as partner referrals, whatever the agreed upon nomenclature is internally to indicate it's from the partnership channel or it's from a partner. Those are all things you might have to build custom tags within your CRM, right? Within the drop downs that exist. And so just little things like that to make sure you have oversight, accountability, and transparency into it. And similarly, it's often good to have a cadence that you communicate with your partners what the status is of their referrals, especially if one, it's an existing client or customer of theirs, or if they're expecting a commission upon a closing. So whether that's an automated email, whether it's something you have ready for each of your calls that you have with them, but to give them an idea of like, hey, these are your 5 referrals from the past 2 weeks, if it's a biweekly call, and this is the status on each of our ends, and this is who's handling each of them, for example.
Very cool. And I apologize, Avinash, you had some good questions in the comments there, and I was not even paying attention to those comments. Again, first time using StreamYard. So you did ask a good question, Ashley, the last one. How would you suggest a sales outreach conversation using one or both names, brand names from the very beginning? So you're like going into a sales outreach type of conversation. My only 2 cents there is, if you're going to bring a partner into a sales conversation from the beginning, meaning like in the email or in the LinkedIn message, et cetera, obviously have their permission to do so first and foremost, but have a very specific intention as to why. So a good example of that is I know Ashley's agency is Shopify Plus and maybe Klaviyo. I think we were showing a Klaviyo course there. I need to make sure that I know specifically what partner manager is associated with that account. And before I do so, maybe I would go to the partner manager and say, I'm trying to reach out to Ashley. I want to use Klaviyo as my entry point, and I need some green lights there from you guys, and then and I'm partnered with Klaviyo in this situation, and then anything else you can bring to the table. And the partner manager may like the idea and like what it does for them. Maybe it brings them a little closer to Ashley too, and say, wait, hold off, don't just DM Ashley. let me put something together. And then we can go back to Ashley together and say, okay, well, this is what we have in mind. And maybe it's a little bigger than what you had anticipated. So maybe that doesn't answer your question specifically, but kind of think about the strategy there and make sure you're going to that partner manager that's dealing with the account first. Ideate with them before you go direct to the account that you're prospecting. Ashley, anything there?
Yeah. I mean, similarly, if it's specifically a co-selling, co-marketing campaign and you have that permission, I would probably say go with both from the get-go. Obviously, some partners would rather sell first and then bring the partner in later. It really just depends on what approach you've decided upon. And it depends on who the market segment is. So if there's a lot of conversations and threads going with your own organization, perhaps you go in first and then you bring the partner in later. But if it's net new for both partners involved, it probably might help to use both, especially if there's more clout with the partner that you're trying to leverage.
Love it. I love it. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you for that, Avinash. Ashley, I think we showed some cool stuff. I think we taught some things. If you learn nothing else, you learn that we're terrible at live streaming, or I am terrible. Like Ashley is just my partner on this adventure, but I'm bad at this. But I'll get better if we do this again.
No worries. Well, we appreciate you all for coming out, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays.
Exactly. Ashley, thank you very much. Get back to your day, and we'll do this again. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.